Hello and welcome to Hidden Existence, and it's the researchers' report tonight. It should be on a Saturday night, but I've managed to change it to the Sunday night for the last two nights. And tonight, co-hosting with me, God, it's taken me ages to get hold of this guy. He's all over the place on YouTube at the moment. If he's not hosting on Texas, he's on Bigfoot Odyssey, he's on his own channel. I thought, I've got to get a piece of this action. It's
It's great to be back, Daniela. Actually, I teased Tex. I'm like, if Daniela steals me away, we'll just take over. Because I mean, you've got your rugged talent, and my rugged sexiness. This is all over.
It's just going to go completely crazy.
Exactly.
We do it. I think we should do it anyway. We'll talk about it later anyway.
We'll talk about it later. There you go.
We'll discuss it later. But tonight, our guest is Glenn Norberg. And Glenn, you work with Mateo from Modern Explorer. He can't make it tonight, but you're going to kind of speak on his behalf in a way, I guess, of what he's been experiencing and what you've been experiencing.
Well, so we've been doing research and actually interviewing people locally, trying to get stories of whatever's been going on around here, trying to get people's encounter stories. And one of the most interesting ones we got was a couple of hunters down on the river. We live in Colorado, and they said they were hunting pre-dawn 2 years ago and had bowling ball sized rocks thrown at them from across the river. So 40, 50 yards.
That's rude.
I found that. Yeah. It's like, unless somebody's got a catapult, that's unusual. And so I've never had any experience whatsoever.
Right.
My deal. Sorry about the video.
You just froze a little bit then.
So I just asking people around. So I went down there to the river to check out what the heck these guys could have seen, where it would have come from, what the terrain looked like, see if there were rocks over there. And Danielle, I sent you an email. Did you get the email with the photos?
Yeah, I've got your photos.
Okay, so I kind of want to bounce through those things. So I go down there, just poking around, and it's river bottom. There's cottonwoods and these nasty, gnarly, what's called Russian olive. They're just gnarly trees and willows. And so I'm pushing my way through the game trails and, fighting my way through there. And I came across these Russian olive trees. The tree is kind of odd. It has these red suckers that come off of it. They're kind of winter growth suckers. And I found this one tree, and all of the suckers had been ripped off and broken off from ground level on up to 25 feet in the air.
These are the ones, Glenn?
Yeah, that's kind of the look. That I think is Hurricane 3. We started naming these hurricane trees because of the damage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so we noticed that's all the red branches, and everything from 4 inches in diameter down to twigs. And everybody said it's bare, right? Except that the leaves hadn't come out on these branches yet. It's all new growth. So there's no fruit, there's no leaves on these things yet. Which makes it unusual. It's like, why would a bear climb up there? Potentially to get away from things. But they don't look like bear nests. So it's honestly, it's a mystery. We still do not know what is creating this. I live in Florence. There's been sightings supposedly up here back in the 80s. This is down on the river about 15 miles away from me. That was the first set that I found. Last weekend, we went poking around and found more of these trees all along in other areas of the river. What we're calling hurricane trees appear to be right on the bank of the river, so you can look up and down the river and scope across the river. So it really seems intriguing. Again, we don't know what's making these signs. It's crazy.
Is it always the same kind of tree, though? I'm sorry, is it always the same kind of tree?
They're always the same tree. It's this Russian olive tree. And they almost look like bear nests. But in looking on photos on bear nests online, bear nests are actually more organized than these are. And so honestly, we really don't know. There are claw marks on the tree, but we don't know. I haven't been able to find any hairs up there as we've looked. Okay. I did this weekend. We went out. I don't know if you see the scratch on my eye. We went kayaking down the river and ran into a Russian olive while we were kayaking, and it almost took my eye out.
Oh, wow.
But when we were down there this last weekend, well, pause, put a pin on that. Last week, Mateo went down to this area poking around, and Danielle, I sent you another email of a footprint that he found. I don't know if you could pull that up.
Yeah, just a second. That hasn't come
okay.
for some reason.
It's in the only reason we're looking at this is because of these trees. That's the only reason we're down there looking around. Because of the trees are where the rocks got thrown from in the first place.
Oh, wow.
So again, it's a mystery. Mateo found this last week, I think it was Wednesday of last. If you look close, that's his foot on the right-hand side. You'll see some deer tracks on either side of that big print. But if you look closely, it is a really fresh print. There are what appear to be 5 distinct toes. There's no claw marks, so it's not a bear. And I'm going to use human terms, but on the inset of the heel, the archway, you can see where the mud has been pushed away. And there's a crack in that mud. Do you see that on the right-hand side?
Yeah.
Maybe it's too small.
Yeah, it's a little bit too small for me.
It may be a little small. There's actually water. The river is rising. There's water inside that footprint. But it's not eroded because if you look at that pushed crack, that hasn't eroded yet. That's the lowest part. And if you really look closely on this photo, we haven't posted this yet because it's so new and we haven't updated stuff. Between the first and second toes, there's a ridge in the, like where the mud would squish up between the toes.
I've got it on the screen now. Can you see that?
Yeah, I've got like 3 screens going on here. It's doubled over on mine.
Hang on.
Yeah, but the mud has squished up between the toe. If you look really close.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I can see it, yeah.
And it's melting, right, because of the water. But if that hasn't melted and the crack on the lower right-hand side there hasn't melted, then the toes, the way we look at it, those aren't eroded. That's a fresh print. Again, in the same place where we've been finding these weird trees and where the rocks were thrown from. So we're just really intrigued by this. I mean, that Mateo's foot's probably, 4 inches across? That's got to be 8, 9 inches across. And there was it was coming directly out of the water and up onto the bank, onto some rocky, gravelly stuff. You couldn't get another print. But inside there is where we find all these, what we're calling the anger trees and the hurricane trees. It's nuts. So,
what's an anger? What's different about the anger tree?
Well, okay, so the hurricane trees, I'm calling it because it looks like a hurricane hit, right? Everything's just trashed.
Mm-hmm.
Those, every time we found them, have been either on the bank. That's a picture of, that's a context picture. See on the left-hand side, see all that messed up branches in that tree?
Yeah.
On the right-hand side is what a normal Russian olive looks like. Everything we're finding that are these hurricane trees are directly on the bank of the river, and you can get a view up and down the river. Now, is it a bear? I don't know, but we're not finding it in the middle of the thickets. It's always on the edge of the thicket or just like the first level in on the edge of the thicket. So again, it's a mystery. I haven't seen what has done this, but
so I've just got it up bigger. So this tree here, you can see the damage up in there.
Exactly.
What it's doing in here on this side.
is normal.
And they're the same trees.
Exactly.
And
you see the height and the scale of it. There's Mateo standing right there. So now I've been talking to wildlife and stuff, and they say, oh, it's bear doing that, right? Because they're going up to eat the fruit. They're going up to eat the leaves. The problem is when these branches are broken, there are no leaves on them yet, and there's no fruit on them yet. It's all broken before anything leaves out. So bears are not foraging on these things.
Right.
Maybe they're climbing up them to do something else, but they're not foraging on these things. And that makes it very curious. It could be cubs, I suppose it could be cubs. But the repeating pattern of seeing it on the edge of the river is what's making it super curious. Again, we're not finding them inside the thickets, but we do find the anger tree, that torn up one. If you pull up the email, one of the images, I named it anger tree.
I'm gonna put it on a bigger. Which number was it? 2, 3?
I don't have either anger tree 2 or 3. It doesn't really matter. You can see some of those branches are. That's the reason we called it an anger tree. Is we walked up to it and literally I said, somebody just got angry at this tree. There's 4-inch diameter branches broken at 5 feet off the ground. It's it's a mystery. I really don't know, but these 3 mysteries connected together at the same time really make it intriguing. There's
so something is coming through and just ripping all the branches off of it, like one specific tree. It's not like it's doing a lot of trees.
And only the red branches. These Russian olives, the red branches are the new growth.
Right.
So it's
they're ripping them off, but they're not taking them.
No, they're actually, a lot of them are broken off, but they're left up in location. One of the interesting things, and I have a video of it, and we'll be posting the video of it later. One of the branches is broke. It's about 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 diameter, bent over 90 degrees.
Without Catherine, I have never experienced anybody so selfless.
Hold on.
Okay.
I marvel at
her. Jason's just muted himself.
No worries.
Go on. Sorry, Glenn.
No, it's okay. So when I climbed up inside some of the hurricane trees, I mean, you can see here, those are 3-4 inch diameter branches busted off there. That's crazy. I know bears are really strong. I mean, they're like crazy strong, but it's crazy. But in the hurricane trees, I found a branch that's 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 diameter, bent over 90 degrees. And then so it's a long branch broken. It's bent then 90 degrees from that. And then bent from that 180 degrees the other direction. So it's not snow load.
Right. Something
actually is climbing up there, breaking these 2 or 3 times to create a perch.
Huh.
It's, basically at this point, what we're trying to do is we don't want to jump to conclusions and just say, oh, big Sasquatch is doing this.
Right. No, absolutely.
We're really trying to take this as slow and as scientifically as we can and say, is it bear? It may be bear, but bear doesn't fit all the parameters as to why these things have been busted.
So what else are you finding around that area then? Any scat or more prints?
Well, I found some scat. The only print we found is this. I mean, the river is rising currently. All these branches appear to have been broken this year in the springtime. The river basin is probably 15 miles long. Okay, it's only a few hundred yards wide, but it's really long. And we're finding these breaks all down the river. Up to Florence here to within 1.5 miles of my house.
Oh, wow.
So I know we have bears up here, but what we're going to do this next season, we're going to get a solar powered game camera. This is a tech tip for anybody who wants it. Solar powered Wi-Fi enabled security camera. You get them on Amazon for 100, 150 bucks. We're going to get a spotting scope and attach it to that a couple hundred yards away, because I found one tree that has been repeatedly, year after year, damaged the same way. So we're going to set this scope up so I can look at it my front. It's not night vision or anything like that, but anything in the day that's climbing up in that tree, I'll be able to see on my phone from home. So I don't have to disturb or get anywhere near it. So I again, it's a mystery, but being these same trees are found where those rocks were thrown from, I've heard night fishermen say they've heard cottonwood trees getting chopped down at 1 a.m. I've heard so many stories of stones being thrown, people getting spooked while night fishing down there. There's something going on that river. Mm-hmm. And that footprint that Mateo found is the most compelling thing we've ever found.
Yeah.
When this last weekend, when I got my eye poked out, we found some hair. Danielle, I sent you that hair.
Yeah.
This I found at about 3 feet off the ground, stuck in a twig. It's about 9 inches long. I actually stretched out there and took it on there. I had no idea what this was. There were cattle around there and stuff. It could be cattle. I took this to a taxidermist friend of ours who couldn't identify another hair that Mateo had found. He's been doing it for 35 years. He could not identify this hair Mateo found up by Colorado Springs. So I brought it to him this morning to look at this. And he thinks that it very well could be cattle hair from the tail. I wouldn't have known that. I'm more of a city boy. I grew up in Pasadena, LA area. So I'm not a cattle person. I wouldn't have known that. It shocked me to hear that. So I need to go find out if indeed those cows have that type of a tail out there. It was shocking to see it there. Again, near these breaks and trees and all this other weird stuff. So my brain went, Sasquatch. But again, we're trying to disprove things more than prove it. Does that make sense?
Did you say, because Mike, sorry, Jason. Sorry. Mike's made a good point. Did you say they were twisted? They're twisted off?
No, they were wedged. Well, there was a branch coming up out of the ground. It was about 3 feet off the ground. It had been snapped off, and these were wedged down into that snap. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike makes a good point. If it's twisted, it would take hands to do that.
No, the hurricane trees, all that stuff appears to either be bent, and we've also found evidence of twisting, like where we found a branch twisted and bent and directly across a beaver path where the beavers go down into the river.
Uh-oh.
Lost you again. Hopefully I'll come back in a second.
Glenn, come back to us, buddy.
It's interesting. It's just that one tree, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Gary's made a point that it could be juveniles just doing that for practice. So I don't know if you're saying it for that, Gary. You're back. You gone again.
So close. Well, the idea of them being juveniles is interesting because if it's always the same trees, then essentially, if these tree breaks are some form of communication, then Sasquatch would know is if they're going to be like, oh, hold up, this is the practice tree, right? So I don't need to take anything from it other than that someone's out here doing it. But that, again, even that's speculation. That's so odd. That's the same. It's always the red branches, the ones that are growing. It's always the same.
It's not even like they're taking sap off it or anything, because I guess the sap's rising at that point, isn't it? Before the leaves are coming, it's already coming up. I don't know.
I mean, that's fascinating behavior, because that's we've all heard about the specific breaks where it's always leaning a specific way and it's about 6 to 8 feet up. Okay, that's clearly some sort of demarcation of travel, but like the X's, the other sort of shapes, like, okay, that's some way of marking the territory or something. That's clear communication, but this seems so unlike that.
Mm.
And it looks like Glenn may be gone.
He might try and come back again.
Yeah.
He is at home. I don't know why there's a problem with the connection, but
well, it could just be, the problem I've had with work recently is, during certain times of day, our internet just, because everyone's on it right now.
How you doing?
Gosh, I am so sorry. This is
okay. It's not your fault.
It's okay. Don't.
No, these trees. What we're finding. This is such a remote area. I kind of could hear you talking there a little bit in and out. This isn't people. Whatever we're finding is a creature of an animal of some sort. This is not people.
No, so to Daniela's question, and I think it's actually, I wanted to go the same way. Is there any evidence that these branches are being tapped for sap at all, or are they being gnawed on? Like it just seems such an odd, specific detail that's only the red fresh growth they're going for.
Gone again.
Oh.
I thought I'd let you finish. He's come and gone. He might find a good spot in the house. Yeah, I mean, I do wonder, I had said it the other night, that, to build this muscle up, they must be messing around in the trees and lifting logs up and, talking to Randy Harrington, and I asked him about what he thought. Oh, you were there?
Yeah.
You were. So, and I never finished, sometimes the questions come later, don't they, after you've interviewed someone. And he talked about how the muscle at the back of the head goes up into that. And then I asked him, actually messaged him the other day, and I said, so maybe they don't have conical shaped skulls. They have the muscle pushes that head up. Yeah. And that's why the younger ones, they did capture a young one with a round head. So.
Yeah, I've actually heard one say.
I moved to a different room.
Yeah, it could work. It's working so far.
Well, we'll see. I'm sorry about all the technical stuff.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's not your fault. It's just the way things are at the moment. So what we were talking about, could the red new fresh branches have sap or something coming off them, or it's not like that. But.
Nothing like that.
No, it's not. It's not that. What we suspect is going on is that these are being broken. The reason they're being broken, not the black ones, is because they're fresh. They don't physically snap. They just break and bend. Okay. And that they are being bent and used for two purposes. One, to break up your shape in the tree. And two, to create a little bit more of something to sit on. But primarily to break up your shape. That's our suspicion, is what's going on here. They appear to be, and again, more research, they appear to be always either over a game trail, directly over a game trail, or directly on the riverbank, to where you have a view side to side.
Gotcha.
So instead of calling them hurricane trees, I don't want to name it. I want to keep hurricane tree because I don't want to name it something that leads me down the wrong road.
Right.
But I also want to call them sentry posts because that's what they appear to be. That one climbs up there and can look and be pretty unobtrusive, but have a great view. Whereas behind you in the thicket, the rest of the troop or whatever could hide and be safe. That's my suspicion.
But you don't feel like there's a lot of people go down there?
No, because it's so. People will kayak down this part of the river occasionally. It's not a very popular part. You have to hike in. Okay, on the south side of the river, there's roads. We have not explored the south side of the river. Everything we're finding is on the north side of the river. And it's 4 miles of nasty, gnarly, just horrible hiking. Something you don't want to go through. That's the reason we took the kayak this last weekend, yesterday, to try and access it, because it's just so gnarly to hike in, because you're pushing through just garbage.
So, okay. I was kind of thinking the same thing, we got to ask all the questions. But you did say that you had seen claw marks on some of the tree.
Yes.
Like, were they deep, or were they just sort of superficial scratches?
They're not deep. I was showing my taxidermist friend, who's he's an outdoors guy, and he showed me a raccoon deal, and he says, no, it's not raccoon. It could be bear, because there are five claws. But I don't know. I mean, if these are young Sasquatch, let's go with the Sasquatch theory. If it's young Sasquatch, do they have claws? Right? Nobody knows.
That's your question.
If you've got a teenager up in the tree, something that isn't. I mean, I climbed up there. I'm 200 pounds. I could stay up there, not a big deal. What if something was 400 pounds? Could they climb up? Yeah. Do they need to have? I mean, when do they? Nobody knows. Do they have claws? When do they not have claws? Do they have claws when they're young? Who knows?
Could there be a Sasquatch that has claws and some that don't? Because we have had some handprints and things like that look very ponged, but still,
I'm gonna
you're
have
right. We don't know.
Because
we don't know, and it is a total mystery to us. We're honestly befuddled. That's the reason I want to set the camera up with the spotting scope on that one particular tree, because it's the only one that I could readily access that way. But one thing that we've really kind of interviewing people discovered, these creatures certainly are not only up in the Pacific Northwest. They're all over the place, and they really, in so many interviews, appear to be attracted to the movement of people, whether they're camping, whether they're fishing, whether they're partying. They're like they're spying on us. As Mateo says, they're creepers.
This photo is from Don Neal, and I'm pretty sure he won't mind me sharing this, because he was on the show, and he gave me this photo to show. This is a handprint, a cast.
Oh, wow!
Yeah.
It doesn't look like they've got nails. It looks like they've got nails, doesn't it, rather than claws?
Yeah. So again, that's the reason I keep wavering, going, is it bear? Or is it one of these things? It adds up to bear up to a point, but then it doesn't add up to bear. So I get, we're getting really confused. Mateo, where he had up in Springs, he had some stones thrown at him while he was car camping, some pebbles. And the next day he went up there and found where they'd scraped up he thought it was a footprint. He took photos where they scraped up the pebbles to pick them up to throw them. It was really interesting. We brought that to our friend who knows tracks, and he said, no, that's not a footprint. That's a picking up pebbles print. So, that was really an interesting. We've got a photo of that. I don't, unfortunately.
They'd have claws on the feet as well, wouldn't they, if they had them on the fingers? Yeah.
I've heard so many reports of them having normal fingernail, like people fingernails. Dakota, on one of our channel's things, where he saw the white one up by Party Rock in Oil Wells Flats. I don't know if you saw that video. It's pretty interesting. One of his descriptions, I'm going to hold this between my knees. One of his descriptions, he saw a white one from 30 yards away with his hands on a tree like this, looking like over a wall. And so we went up to that location, and before we're going up there, I'm going, how can you look over a juniper tree like you're looking over a wall? Made no sense at all, right? juniper trees are large diameter trees. We drive up to that location. We parked. As soon as we parked, he looks and says, "That's the tree." So I walked to the tree, and it had been opened up like a bowl. All the center branches were broken out.
Huh.
So you could hide in the middle of this bowl of a juniper tree. And when I brought a ladder, when I climbed up the ladder, I could put my hands on the bushes just like he described.
Huh.
And this is 30 yards away from what's called Party Rock out here, where all the high school kids go and party. He and his girlfriend were out there by themselves. They had a little fire going, they had a radio going in the car, and they were dancing. And he looks up, she looks over his shoulder, sees this thing, takes off, white as a ghost. He turns around, sees a white one, pure white, with a dark face. I want to say it was a dark face, watching them from this tree. He takes off. By the time they turn the truck around, scan the headlamps across the bush, it was gone.
Okay, so just a question on that one. So this creature, whatever it was, deliberately went through, tore up a bunch of branches to create like just a negative space so he could put its face and
kind of a bowl in the middle of this tree.
Okay.
Right. So all the branches that would have been poking up into the middle were broken off. So all you had was the perimeter branches. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I get you. That's wild.
Video that we went to, and again, it's not like Dakota. I've known this kid for 12 years. I've watched him grow up since he's 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He'll stretch a story. He'll say, "I shot an elk at 70 yards when he shot it at 40 yards." Right?
Yeah.
But he won't fabricate a story. Yeah, he'll stretch it, but he won't fabricate a story. When we drove up there, there was no doubt in his mind. That's the tree. He hadn't been up there in quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And when I walked up the tree, I was shocked to see this physical shape of that tree. It blew me away.
Huh.
That's on the video. I think Mateo renamed the video, and I don't remember what it is. That's on the Modern Explorer YouTube video or YouTube channel.
Okay.
Something like it was a white one looking at us or something like that. So what we're trying to do is go on location where people have had encounters. Video the site from where they're standing, what they see, what they saw, to get scale, to get their facial, so you can tell if they're lying or not, to get the vibe of what the whole area feels like. And it is amazing how much it seems like these things are just creeping on us in so many ways.
Well, here and around Dallas, the one spot that I've gotten the most actual people saying I saw this thing is it's off of Mountain Creek. I've got where it comes off the Trinity, but there's an area where it crosses through underneath I-20. There are businesses on either side. That was like where we went to go hang out as teenagers, because there was 2 different movie theaters and all the restaurants were there. Some of the largest churches in Dallas are like a mile up the road. Like, this is a busy place. Homes all over the place, and they're going through creeks.
No.
In people's homes looking at stuff. So it's nuts.
Hang on one second.
Sure.
I can't. Sorry. I had to move to her bedroom, and my wife said, "Can I come in there?" I said, "No."
I've just put a link up. I've just put a link up to the Modern Explorer channel. People want to go and check it out. What was the name of that video? Did you?
He just changed the name like a week ago. It's got a white Sasquatch behind some trees. It's kind of a Photoshop version of it. Honestly, he literally just changed the name, and I can't remember what the name of it is.
Snow White Sasquatch.
Snow Sasquatch, probably, yeah. Well, there's potentially 2 different ones, but I think that's probably it. Maybe Snowy Sasquatch.
There's one Snow White Sasquatch.
Okay, that's probably it. Yeah.
Okay, just a second.
Snow White Sasquatch and the 7 Dogmen.
We do have a Dogman story up here too. We haven't interviewed the guy yet, but we have a Dogman story here too.
So that was actually going to be my next question, which is, like you said, we don't know what's doing this damage, but if there are claw marks, do we maybe need to look at something else other than a Sasquatch? Because that's yeah. I mean, again, everybody I talk to says, "Oh, it's just a bear." I don't think it's a bear, but I don't know. That's the reason I've got to get that camera looking at that tree, because that tree has been looked at. This tree that I found last weekend has been looked at and climbed up and broken the trees for at least 2 or 3 years in a row. So it's like a hot spot, and it's the only one that we can have the camera 200, 300 yards away and still watch accurately. Right.
Which would be huge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a great idea, because I've often wondered, I think we just need some distance on them. I mean, when they go and they film these nature videos in 4K, they have, like a $10,000 camera, but then they're parked a quarter of a mile.
Exactly. Exactly.
Some line on the other side of a mountain to get to take a look at this cat. And they have a telephoto lens the size of a Volkswagen, so you can see it. Right.
Yeah, and I don't have a $9,000 lens that I can do, but I've got a spotting scope, and we can try and hook it up to this. So I think it's a cool idea.
Yeah, no, I think that's what we need to do. We need to change the tactics. But I kind of want to go back to this idea of the branches. Are they? So they're just strewn about, like they're breaking them, and they're not doing anything with them. They're not arranging them in any way, or
no. The hurricane trees / century trees. It almost is sort of a nesty sort of thing in the tree. But inside the thickets, no, there's no rhyme or reason aside from the fact that it's only the red branches that are broken.
That's so weird.
Some are laying on the ground, some are left up in the tree. People said, well, it's a bear climbing up there. Well, one of these branches is 25 feet in the air and on a branch that's only 1 inch in diameter, because it goes straight up. I don't see a bear doing that. Maybe it's an osprey breaking them off, but then how is the osprey breaking a 4-inch diameter branch?
Right.
I mean, you can, any one of these animals could do some of these things, but not any of these animals seem to be able to do all of them.
It's a mystery, isn't it?
It truly is a mystery. The local DOW, Department of Wildlife gal, is intrigued. She wants to go out and look and have me show her what I'm seeing, because I'm sure she wants to write it off,
Yeah.
But she's intrigued enough by the information I've given her so far that she's going, I don't know, I want to go look at it.
So, what about encounters in that area? Is there anything around there?
Not direct. There's rocks being thrown, boulders being thrown, just oogie feelings. Right down in the city of Florence, in our little town, back in the 80s, there's one BFRO report of something in the ditch. We're 3,000 people in our town. We have a drainage ditch running right down through the middle of town, okay? There's a BFRO report of something being seen there. That was kind of curious because it's a small town. Since I've been asking around, I now have four distinct and separate encounters there. Because of COVID, I haven't been able to interview people because nobody wants to talk, right?
Right.
But it's been, I mean, all this has been happening in the past few months. I've met another guy online, haven't talked in person, but he up in the San Isabel forest up behind us. Okay, the closest forests to us, 10, 15 miles away. Okay, so that's a shock to a lot of people because they think that these are only in the Pacific Northwest or deep in the deep darks. This is a river basin. It's thick down there, but it's high desert going to it. outside of Pueblo to the east side of Pueblo, out in the hinterlands out there. That's definitely high desert. It's a river basin, 65 miles from the mountains. We've got reports of people having chickens stolen. In fact, 15 years ago, they took a track out that way. And that's southeast of Pueblo, out in the middle of nowhere. So it's really interesting. We're just tracking things down and trying to track down stories and build a database of what's going on where, to where to focus.
What are you going to do with the hares?
Well, like I said, I took it to the a taxidermist who's been doing it for 35 years. His strong suspicion, 90%, is that it's a cow's tail.
Okay.
You know, it's a wah, wah, wah type of thing. You know, we want it to be something different. But I also want to be honest.
Better to do that than hold on to these clues that don't add up to anything.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to attach it necessarily. I do want to follow it up. I want to go to the owners of those cows and see if I can't see if indeed these cows have black tails, or if it's the right type of tail. Because if it's not, then I'll pursue it further. You know, DNA testing is crazy expensive. You know, $800. You know, that's a lot of money to waste on something we suspect to be a cow tail.
Yeah.
But Mateo's, the hair that he found up in Springs, my friend, he's been doing taxidermy 35 years. He's the best guy in Colorado. He couldn't identify that hair. It had no medulla, the center core.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's
it's about
a fairly common story. That's common in Bigfoot hair.
This hair is probably 6 inches long. Mm-hmm. It's light coming from the skin, coming out about 4 inches. It's light tone, white, effectively. The last 1.5 inches is dark, brown, black, just dark. And according to the taxidermist, he says most hair, and he showed us silverback gorilla. I mean, he's got all these pelts down below. He showed us why it wasn't anything he had. It was really crazy. So that, again, it's the expense. It's all money. And that's tough.
I'm just going to download some hair Mark Zaski got. And it shows you that it's, transparent and has nothing. Don't know how I'm going to do this, actually.
While you're doing that, one of the things that you spitball ideas, right? Because nobody really knows yet. We all have this weird ideas, and every idea is valid until it's not. People talk about this cloaking, right? That's kind of a thing people talk about. The cephalopods, octopus and stuff, those guys can change their texture and, texture and colors at a blink of an eye. We've never seen that on a land mammal, right? But who's to say that couldn't be something with a land animal, and then it transmits through a clear hair? I mean, who knows? But it's so funny. So many people supernaturalize Sasquatch when they don't necessarily need, maybe it's just hypernatural, right? It's not something we're used to. That's just a pet theory of mine.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is that little video.
Oh, wow.
That Mark Zaski put together of hair that he found. To show its transparency,
Yeah.
And that it's taking on the background, and I think, he's trying to say maybe this is what the cloaking's about, that they're actually just blending in because that's what the fur, the hair can do. So
almost like a gradient filter on Photoshop, like you can, or using or taking the hardness off the eraser brush, it sort of breaks up that hard edge, that hard line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what if like an octopus, you can change the color of your skin to match?
Oh, sorry.
What if that would transmit through the hair as well?
Mm.
I mean, who knows, right?
Right. So they would have maybe chromatophores, and the hair would see it or
exactly
reflect that changing color.
Yeah, and if you could have your head next to a tree and your arm by a bush, maybe your arm could be green and your body would be brown, you know?
Mm.
Yeah.
Because of being able to change the chromatophores, yeah.
Huh. Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I'm totally spitballing here, but
yeah,
you know.
we all are, aren't we? That's all we do.
Well,
Just these ideas out, and you know, it's, if anyone else has seen this with the trees or heard about that, let us know. Get in touch.
I mean, I would love to know the answer to this mystery, whatever it is. If it's a bear, fine. If it's a raccoon, great. But nobody has come up with a great answer yet, and so it's a mystery.
So you've not finding, where did you find the hair? It wasn't up there, was it?
It was on the river, and it truly there were cow prints all over the ground, and we saw a cow there as we pulled up to the river. So that's the reason I'm saying it very well could be a cow.
What about in the tree though? Actually, in that tree where you think maybe they might
up in the tree, the only thing we found was what's reminiscent of raccoon. Jerry pulled out the raccoon skin, and he showed me a skin today. I took a video of it. It looked reminiscent of that, but again, it's not like a single treacher is going to climb a tree. Lots of animals go up, and maybe a bear broke that down, then a raccoon climbed up it, right? I mean, it's not like we're only talking one creature ever does one thing in one area once.
Real quick, is he frozen again?
I think so.
Oh no, you're back. Okay.
You were going to conserve your question that way.
I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Actually, because what you just said about the raccoons, going out about finding raccoons in some of these trees. What if that's what they're doing? What if there's something about the breaking of these branches? Because that's when you hunt raccoons, that's what you do. You release the dogs, they tree them, you shoot them. What if that's what they're doing? They're doing these specific trees, and they're breaking them. Maybe they're smelling something. They're climbing up it. So the Bigfoot's like, "That's my lunch, thank you."
Absolutely, and good point. And it could be a raccoon up there. It could be who knows. I know that people. Not people don't go down there, but it is so rare that people go down there. It's not hunting stuff. Something is making this happen. And
it's not human. It's not human hunting stuff. Is my point.
Yeah, exactly. It could. I mean, again, we're spitballing. Nobody until I have eyeballs on whatever's doing this somehow.
Yeah,
we don't know. And it, like I said, some of it seems to be bear, but some of it is just wrong for bear.
Right.
So, we're continually going to be checking this out and trying to take as slow and methodical. Every month, take a look at these and see if any changes are.
Jamie Cotterill, hi Jamie. Glenn should inquire with Cindy Dawson from the Olympian Project about the hair. Have you tried to speak to anyone from there?
You know what? This hair, I mean, we literally the hair we just collected yesterday. So, no, I haven't done it. I just took it to
time yet. Okay.
Took it to the taxidermist this morning.
That's fair.
We got thunderstormed on last night.
Yeah.
Mateo's hair, he has been holding on to it because he didn't know quite who to talk to. He only has, I think, 3 physical fibers. And it's like once you let those out of your hot little hands, You know, so he's being very slow. He's talking to professors and trying to get, because he's taken anthropology and other classes specifically to pursue Sasquatch, right? To round his learning out. And so he's talking to all of his professors and trying to get them to look at things before we go to the DNA testing or anything like that. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, like you said, DNA is expensive. It seems so often like we have trouble extracting DNA from these supposed Bigfoot hairs. It may be due to the lack of the medulla, right? Like, exactly. That may be a problem.
And my understanding is when you get a hair, you need either get the medulla, which is iffy about for DNA, or you get the follicle down inside the scalp or whatever. Mm-hmm. That would have the DNA, but most of the hairs are just broken off.
Yeah, because it's just keratin.
So it's just it's a spotty at best to get DNA out of hair.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
have you left anything like gifts, anything like that? Have you just tried anything?
Not yet, just because we're honestly kind of doing the initial exploring. Mateo up by Colorado Springs, he's left apples. Left in a, you know, those mesh bags that avocados come in, right? He put 4 apples in a mesh bag hanging from a tree and came back and 2 of the apples are missing. So they were taken from the top of this hanging mesh bag. He's been finding a lot of very strange deer kills and stuff that we keep. He just found one this last weekend. He's going to gather the skin because it looks like it's been stripped off in, 4-inch wide strips and peeled off. We want to see if that's been cut. We haven't, again, he's probably out gathering it this afternoon. Mm-hmm. We want to see if there's knife marks on that skin, like if a poacher took it out or if something else did. The legs, all 4 legs were broken the same way, but no chew marks on them. But the marrow's been sucked out. So again, it's just weird stuff. Don't want to jump to conclusions, but it's just, this is curious. And it takes a lot of hard work and finding professionals that know what the heck they're talking about, that can look at the detail and say, okay, this detail says this. So,
I'm very weary about food being left out. I just think if an animal wants something, if it's hungry enough, it'll get it. You know, and those smaller animals that can get to higher places. And
well, that's the reason, for that bag, that mesh bag, because it had a drawstring on it. So the drawstring would close the top of the bag. So
whatever took it out had to be able to undo it.
Would have to at least open it up to get the apples out. Then you got a large, I'm thinking of the monkey with his hand in the vase with the orange, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That thing.
And it's like, well, if you've got a pretty large apple pulling out through a closed drawstring, what could do that, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's
where there more a squirrel. I don't know. Maybe a squirrel could do it. I don't know. But it was 7 feet off the ground too.
Yeah. Okay. So just for my particular knowledge, you said 2 of the apples have been removed. He put more apples in there than just the 2, or?
You know what? I honestly don't know. I don't know they replaced them. He saw on the bottom apple, if I remember right, that something had tried scratching it from the bottom, like a squirrel or a critter of some sort.
Yeah.
But the 2 apples at the top were missing. That was kind of unusual. Again, the only reason he's there is because of other branches that have been broken or other weird experiences and his own experiences up there. Where it's not like we're just wandering around aimlessly in the woods. No. There's a reason we're going to certain places.
Yeah. I just find it interesting that it was just the 2 top apples and he left some of the others underneath.
Exactly. Yeah. That's an odd thing. And again, his everybody talks, put game cams up, It's like, well, gorillas don't like looking at cameras. They see the lens as maybe an eye, all this stuff is, so cameras, they do make sound. If you see the lens, it can look like an eye. And maybe these things are totally avoiding those. So that's the reason I wanted to do that long distance one.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's clear that it is clear that they have some ability to detect them, at least on some level, some of the time, because we're not getting them on game cams. If we do, it's the people who claim to have gotten some good shots, like our friend from last time, whose name escapes me suddenly because I haven't slept this weekend. I think it was Randy.
Right?
Even then it was like it was hidden amongst other things that they knew humans had touched, right? And even then it's still stuff here. So yeah, I mean the fact that we don't have just good shots of them from a game cam is telling me that's not the answer here. They have some way of knowing that they're there.
Well, and people say, oh, they can see infrared, they can see this, they can see that. It's like Mateo pointed out, and it makes perfectly good sense. If somebody walked into your living room or your bedroom and placed a camera up on your shelf, you would probably notice it. These creatures, if they're that familiar with the woods, it's the same thing. They'll walk in and go, hey, look, there's a camera up on my shelf and avoid it. Right? I mean, it's not magic. It's not like, oh, they're seeing infrared. It's like they're just uber familiar with or at least I suspect they're just uber familiar with their area.
I mean, it could be scent as well, couldn't it? They could just
absolutely
very good sense of smell and pick up.
Yeah, your scent going to the tree, your scent walking on the ground.
Yeah. So like you said, for the metaphor, it's like the Bigfoots walked in and it looks like there's a camera next to my Roy Clark collection.
Exactly.
It's all the Roy Clark plates. There's one. It's like that's not right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard so many people talk about hunters where they'll have their rifle down, but as soon as it's even moved to get raised, the Bigfoot reacts to that. So they know the difference between a lowered rifle and a raised rifle.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hunters, they've been able to study hunters for years.
Yeah. And here's something that, okay, I've talked to lots of hunters who say, I've never seen a big, I'm out in the woods all the time, right? When are you out in the woods? Hunting season. Right?
Yeah.
Honestly, the people I'm trying to interview are hikers, are well drillers, are septic tank people, are builders, are road construction workers who are out there not during hunting season.
Yeah.
That's who I'm reaching to because they've got weird stories because they're out there out in the boonies for extended times at weird times.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that hunters don't see them. Why, if I was smart and intelligent and knew it was hunting, deer know when it's hunting season. They'll go to private land to get off of public land. If a deer knows that or an elk, you're darn straight that Sasquatch will know more.
Yeah. Well, it's like doves, right? Like mourning dove. It's like you go outside, you go out there, you're like, hey, I'm on the right lease. There's sunflowers across. I get the water. We're good. You don't see them. You drive into town, and they're all huddled around on some, like in a graveyard or on some statue somewhere. Yeah, no, I get exactly what you're saying. They can tell time too. They know, hey, the guys with the boomsticks are wandering around. I'm going to go over here. Or maybe here's a question. Maybe they live a lot. Maybe we assume they're all off in the deep woods, and maybe they're there sometimes. But what if they tend to live much closer to the humans, where we don't tend to shoot back?
That's what I've gotten too many reports, local reports. Like, again, we're a small town. I've gotten too many reports of people saying, yeah, I saw it just outside of town. I saw it by a campground. I talked to some people, they were camping up by a lake, and they had sleep in their hammock, zipped up, and 2 nights in a row, they felt a hand caress the bottom of the hammock. That's a creepy feeling.
Yeah.
You know, but I take comfort in the fact that if they wanted to kill you, they could kill you, right? If they're doing weird stuff and creeping on you, it's not to kill you. They're just interested.
Definitely.
I'm sorry. The way you said that last part, I'm just like, they're like, I can just see them. They're like, what are you doing? Peeping some humans and just eating popcorn.
Yeah, that's what happened to Mateo. He was with his girlfriend in the car camper, and they were getting pebbles thrown at the car.
They're just messing with us. They're like,
well,
watch
and
this.
that's messing with Sasquatch, and that's why Mateo got okay. I'm going to mangle his story, but this is the gist of it. They were getting pebbles thrown in his car.
Okay.
He gets out of his car to scare the kids because this is a well-traveled area. He's getting out of his car to scare the kids who are messing with them while they're in the car. Okay. He gets out, uses his flashlight on his phone, looking around, doesn't find them. Long story short, comes back. As they're approaching the car, he hears this hellacious racket in the trees right behind him, and rocks, and hears branches being broken off, and gets rocks and sticks thrown towards them, and they hightail it out of there in the car. But what led up to this was pebbles being thrown at them to get their reaction. Later on, he'd gone out there, and he would not react to the pebbles being thrown, right? Because you go out there, nothing's going on. So he'd wait in the car, and then bigger pebbles were being thrown to get their reaction. Mm-hmm. He got out, looked around, nothing, went back in the car, ignored the bigger pebbles. He believes he heard something run up and come and smack the car and run off. They're creeping on him, right? They're just they're playing with them, and that's really typical kind of chimpanzee behavior.
Yeah.
Right? They'll play like that to get reaction from you. He at that point gets out of the this is the crazy part. He gets out of the car, goes up to where the rocks he thinks are coming from. He's since bought a thermal camera for his cell phone, right? Those little FLIR deals. He's got his girlfriend. She's watching. He says, look at me and see if you can see me. He goes up there. She says, no, I can't see you. She's playing with the phone, not recording, but playing with it. He walks down on the path. As he's walking down the path, she's watching the phone. And he gets back to her and she says, I want to leave. And he goes, why? She says, I want to leave. Well, as a man, he's not picking up on her vibe.
Mm-hmm.
2 days later, she says, the reason I wanted to leave was as you were walking down the trail, I was watching you on the FLIR. There was a tall, naked man standing not 5 feet away from you as you passed the trail. What he suspects is he went up to where the rocks were being thrown from. It avoided him, went to the trail. As he walked down the trail, she was watching it look at her, turn its head, look at him, look at her, look at him, and then step behind a tree as he walked right past.
Wow.
That's what scared the crap out of her.
Wow.
And said, I'm leaving. But she didn't tell him for 2 days.
Wow.
So, I mean, again, that's you ask Mateo, he'll call them creepers because of what his reaction. You know, on all these stories, people seem. One of the stories on Pioneer Day Parade, it's our little town's parade, you know, our Founding Day Parade. Everybody lines up. They all go to the park. One of the sightings we have from a guy who's well known in the community saw one in the ditch during the day of Pioneer Day Parade. It was walking out of town while everybody was at the park eating popcorn and hot dogs and partying. But he happened to be walking up and saw one in the ditch heading out of town. Wow. Shortly after the parade. What do you do with that? Either the guy's lying, but everybody will stand up for who he is, or he's telling the truth. And if he's telling the truth, these things are not shy.
No.
Wow. Now they're creeping. And that's the type of story we're getting. It's just crazy of just that they're observing us so much more than people think. It is a little creepy.
Yeah, that's really odd. Okay, so it's not the same, but we were interviewing Vic Cundiff on my other show, or this is not my show. I'm just popping in to say hi. But we had one of the things he flat out said was he believed that, again, because he specializes in dogmen, that they just mess with people. He's like, these creatures could clearly kill people. They seemingly go out of their way to just terrify people. Like they're making an active choice to interact with humans to create the emotion of terror, and then they go away.
Fear seems to be the key, doesn't it?
Specifically with the dogman thing. That's I've heard that time. I listen to Wes. I really like his stuff too, and just hearing stories, and that seems to be a real common thread with that. Here's one of the things. Again, I take comfort in the fact that if they wanted to kill us, they could.
Yeah.
But apparently they don't want to, right? I liken that. I took an active shooter class, right? Pistol class.
Right.
And the instructor said, if you're in a 7-Eleven and some guy comes in waving his gun around, he's not there to kill you. He's there to threaten you. He's there to intimidate you. He's there to do anything else, but he's really not there to kill you. Yeah. If he was there to kill you, you'd be dead. You wouldn't see him coming.
No, absolutely. You're right.
Yeah. So when these rocks get thrown at people, they're trying to say something. Either get the hell out of here, or you're too close, or, hey, I want to play with you, and you've been ignoring our attempts by throwing little pebbles. We're just throwing bigger rocks. Who knows?
Yeah.
But if they wanted to kill you, that rock would be in your head. And you would, they would have snuck up to you and you'd be dead.
Yeah. I mean, they clearly can. I mean, that's not even a question. I mean, we know that they can get close. Again, we've seen, how often do we have stories of people being like, I was taking these photographs and when we went back through them, it just shows up. And and the creature's like 5-10 feet away from somebody in the photograph. It's just sitting there being like, hey.
My name is Daryl.
Yeah, my name is Daryl.
I guess while we're tromping through the woods, right, making all the racket, my comfort is that if they want to kill me, I'd be dead. If I hear a rock thrown or if something weird happens, they're just trying to tell me something. Right. And I take comfort in that.
I think the rock throwing comes from a place of fear, of scaredness, and it's almost like, please go away.
I think it certainly can be. I mean, I've heard from boulder thrown 70-pound rocks, but the little pebbles, it's another very interesting thing. So many hunters specifically have in their head their worldview, right? I talked to one of my local guys. He was saying, we were hunting one time and my nephew was throwing pebbles at my camper at night. I said, how do you know it was your nephew? And I said, because I know it's my nephew is throwing pebbles. Did you ask your nephew? He said, yes. What did he say? He said, I wasn't throwing pebbles at the camper. You guys are throwing pebbles at my camper. And I said, well, why do you not believe it was why do you think it was your nephew throwing pebbles at your camper then if he denies it? And he says, well, what else could it have been? So his worldview won't allow him to think that. I talked to my neighbor at the hardware store. He saw, quote unquote, a man in a monkey suit walking down the middle of Main Street at 3 a.m. back in the 80s. And I looked at him and said, Rich, why do you say it's a man in a monkey suit walking down the street at 3 a.m? And he looked at me and says, what else could it be? And I said, you lived here all your life. Was there anybody in the 80s in Florence, in our little town, who had the wherewithal and the jokester withal to go buy a monkey suit and walk down the middle of the street at 3 a.m. And he says, no.
Yeah.
I'm going, so rich. Come on, dude.
Mm-hmm. No,
nobody would do this. You know, but their worldview won't accept it. So it's like, I'm going to write it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, it's like,
absolutely.
It's finding these tree branches. Are these bear? Maybe. Most people would probably write it off as bear, but has anybody seen a bear do this? No. But if their worldview won't allow it for not to be bear, they'll write it off as bear.
Yeah.
It's so hard. It's your worldview, that box your world lives in.
Yeah.
Tell them about your blog and what you do on Todd's channel.
I just started that. Amanda's been hammering on us to do that. Mateo started his and only put one post in there. Basically, I'm trying to track my journey, right? From total skeptic or just, I want to have fun with this, and whoever sees a Sasquatch wins every game we ever play forever, right? That was my attitude. Right? You could start Monopoly, somebody opens up the box and says, we're starting a game Monopoly. I said, well, I won because I saw Sasquatch, right? That's how serious I took it. So I'm starting to blog my journey as we go here. I'm trying not to be crazy about it. I'm trying to post photos, what I'm finding, and just the slow, methodical journey. I'm not sensationalizing, but I'm going from somebody who didn't take it seriously to has heard a lot of stories to where at this point I believe there's something out there. I just don't know what. And now I'm looking and finding all these weird branches that I can't explain yet. And I've walked down. I know we have bear in our town. There's a channel here about a half a mile long that's filled with Russian olives. None of those trees have been broken like this.
Right.
You know, and I know we have bears.
Yeah.
But my trees haven't been broken that way. Only the ones on the river. So, you know, I'm trying to disprove that it's Sasquatch.
Right.
But I'm getting more questions. I'm getting answers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I say, if anyone's watching this and they recognize that, they've seen that before, get in touch. Get in touch with Glenn. Glenn, you're on Facebook.
Absolutely. On the easiest thing is probably through the YouTube channel on Modern Explorer.
Okay.
Just look up Modern Explorer. There's encounters at modernexplorer.me, not .com, but ME, like Modern Explorer.
Yeah.
Send us an email if you've seen something like that or anything. Again, it's Russian olives. That's the key. And, we've talked to Robert Kreider down in Arizona, and we're hooking up with him because he's got a lot of experience with Russian olives down there.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah, I'm just going to put this email address. I've got it here.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm on my phone. I can't see anything on my phone.
I'll put it in the description later. I'm just going to put it in the live chat now. If anyone wants to get in touch with Mateo or Glenn, that's how to do it. Or go on to the channel, Modern Explorer. Glenn, you'll have to come back when you've come a bit more further with whatever you found or not found, or any more clues. And
well, our hope is absolutely. I'd love to. It's a long, slow slog.
Yeah.
The end goal behind all this silliness and craziness that we're doing. Mateo got the crap scared out of him in the woods. He's a Vietnam, Afghanistan vet, been in firefights. He was told the enemy in out there. He knew it was out there. He's been told all his life that there is no such thing as Sasquatch in the mountains. He got the bejeebers scared out of him crap, up in these mountains. His goal, my goal, we know if we walk and see a scrape on a tree, that's a bear. Mm-hmm. You're going to avoid that area, maybe. Unless you're hunting bear. If you see an African lion or a gorilla, you don't look at them in the eyes because they take that as a threat. We want to write up a field manual, a field guide for sign for a Sasquatch. If you see Russian olives that are broken like this, that might be a sign that there's Sasquatch around. I want to be able to prove that and put that in a book and down in writing so somebody doesn't get the crap scared out of them or get brained by a boulder because they went too close. That's the whole purpose behind this. So that's why we're trying to be really non-sensational, but very, very serious about this.
Are you prepared to see one?
I'm working my way up. I really am. I 2 months ago, it was a silly, crazy thing. I've been working my way up. I went out and sat out the river at night by myself in the dark, and I heard a rock thunk in the river. It shifted, a big rock, that thunk of a rock underwater, that shifting sound.
Yeah.
I heard that. It was about 50 yards away. I couldn't see a bloody thing. Don't know what it was. Could have been anything. Could have been the river pushing it. When Mateo and I went out and spent the night out there, we heard a significant splash in the river right next to us in the same area where these hunters had rocks thrown at them. We didn't see what made it. Nothing else happened. Until I wrote all that off as a frog, as a beaver, as a whatever. Then Mateo saw that footprint. That made it much more real. Every step gets much more real. When I found this hair, I was like, oh my gosh. And that was yesterday. I'm glad it was a cow tail, hopefully. Yeah. Maybe not. Am I prepared? I think I am. But if it's 10 feet tall, I went outside my house. I can almost reach 8 feet high. 2 feet above that was the eaves of my house. I stood back about 15 feet, look at the eaves of my house. And I have to ask myself, do I want to see a 10-foot tall creature? Yeah. I don't know. That's really don't know.
What I do. I do that. I look at the ceiling in my house and I think that's 10 foot at least. And I think I can't even imagine. Even if I get through the door, a 6.5 foot door.
And then my little 40 caliber pistol is not going to do squat to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, we've come past the end of the hour.
I am so sorry. Thank you.
No, please don't apologize. Please don't apologize. I'm glad we got you on and we got through it. As I said, come back when you know a little bit more, or whenever you're ready, when you've had that sighting and you're ready to share it with us.
Every time I go, so that because if I see something, I'm not gonna be able to whip out my camera, obviously.
No, obviously.
But everywhere I look, I'm trying to record, and I want to always carry an audio recorder because you're not going to catch something the first time, and it may only happen once. So,
all right.
Thank you so very much. I really appreciate you taking the time and the opportunity, and I'm sorry again for the glitches, but I'm glad it worked out so far.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for coming on. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
No, thank y'all.
Thanks to everyone in the chat, everyone watching. Mike, well done getting out there. Baby steps, that's what it's about, and support. Mike's gone back in the woods after a while, I think, and been facing his fears.
It took Mateo 6 years.
I had imagined.
Yeah.
Sometimes
it's what you need to do, though, isn't it? It's just face it, get out there and face it. Everyone, I've got a page on Facebook now, Hidden Existence. Come and say hello. Come and give it a like.
Cool.
Go and check out Not Another Bible Study on Jason's channel, which is about Bible study. And I think I'm
lying.
Lying. Oh, okay. I think I'm coming on to Tex's channel on the 16th of June. Do you know about that?
No, actually, I haven't seen the most updated calendar.
Emails have been I was a bit slow responding, but I'm sure Shell will get back to me. But I'm looking forward to that. And guys,
we can beat up on text then.
Yeah, let's do it. What was I going to say? yeah, it'll be on the researchers' report on Wednesday night. And then we'll take it from there because it's still Sunday, isn't it?
It really is.
The days are rolling into one at the moment with all this
COVID.
COVID. I don't know if we'll ever get back to normal, but
oh man.
you know. Anyway, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Cheers.